When you receive an email from your producer asking if you're okay tasting some alcohol and roast meat at 10:30 in the morning live on air, there is only one answer. So to settle this once and for all, what's it to be? Beer or wine with your turkey or veggie roast this Christmas? I've got fighting in the beer corner is drinks historian and the UK's first beer sommelier of the year, Jane Peyton. And over in the wine corner is wines champion and sommelier Dominique Kate Hopgood. I'm going to speak first, though, to Jane, who's actually down the line, so we're drinking remotely together. Hi, Jane.
Hi there.
So this is my first time, actually, this year cooking turkey for the family, which I'm actually quite nervous about. But I hadn't considered beer on the table. Why should I?
You should consider beer for every meal, actually, because beer goes so brilliantly with all food, and it comes into its own with Christmas dinner, which is quite stodgy sometimes. It's a big, full-textured meal, so you want something that's going to cut through that texture and enhance the flavours of it. Beer is mostly water. It contains carbon dioxide, which helps to scrub the palate. It contains hops, which are really good with texture. And it also, if you choose the style of beer right, and you choose one with some caramel and toffee flavours, it's going to go really well with any roasted meat that we're doing, which you are doing this morning, I believe.
Yes, well, we'll come to that in a moment. I do have a plate of turkey and cold bread sauce in front of me. Dominique, make your case on behalf of wine, then.
I think it's as simple as the old Latin saying, in vino veritas, in wine there is truth. And yeah, beer and wine have both been around for donkey doodahs, but we have such an excellent selection in this country, in England at the moment. We're not wedded to one particular style because we haven't had the long tradition that, say, France or Italy has, and, you know, only drinking our own. We have it from all over the world, and there are so many different options.
I don't think some people want truth around their family Christmas table. Well, let's move beyond that. Jane, so talk to me about beer in terms of what we've got in the studio, because I believe we've got a lager to start with, a Boston lager.
Yes, that's actually a style called Vienna lager. Most people are familiar with lagers as in Pilsner. Those are the pale, carbonated, straw-coloured beers that are the major brands that everybody knows. Vienna lager has got some caramel in it. It is a style of lager beer. Lager, by the way, is one branch in the family tree of beers. Ale is another branch of the family tree of beers. So what we've got today is Samuel Adams Boston lager, and that is brewed actually in Britain by Shepherd Neame under licence. So what you're going to get from this, you're going to get a citrus herbal caramelly flavour to your beer. And it's also very, very crisp. It's very dry and very crisp and clean.
That is very nice. I just wolfed a bit of turkey down and had some beer with it, and it is good. But there is this type of feeling that maybe, you know, you think of beer as being quite stodgy with meat, but it is a very nice flavour. And what's the other one we've got? We've got an ale, haven't we?
Yes, we've got Tribute. It's an English pale ale brewed by St Austell in Cornwall. And this one has got some very sweet malts. That's the barley. So you've got sweet malts. You've got some amber and toffee flavours as well. You'll get some juicy citrus coming through from the hops. Now, turkey isn't very highly flavoured, so you want a beer that's not going to overwhelm the meat, but that's going to enhance it and complement it. Can I just say that the glassware is really important?
Yeah, we are drinking, we should say, you know, we have to describe these things, don't we? We're drinking beer out of wine glasses, which I don't do.
Yes, well, people normally don't, because they drink beer in pubs, which is pints or half pints, imperial measures. But if you drink your beer in a snifter or a wine glass, a flute, or any sort of other elegant wine glass...
A snifter looks a bit like a brandy glass, doesn't
Exactly, it? It's got a very narrow rim. So what that does, your nose gets in the way, basically, so you can't glug. It means that you have to sip your beer, and that means that any sweetness in the beer is going to register at the front of the tongue, and then the complexity of the beer will be revealed as you open it up, and the beer moves back over your tongue, and then you swallow it.
Right.
So glassware, absolutely crucial. Plus, when you're dining, you want something a bit elegant on the table.
We've got to give the mic over to some wine now. So what have we got here to start with?
Right, we're starting off with a little white wine from your local friendly branch of M&S, but it's actually a crazy grape called Grasadina, which is also known as Welsh Riesling. It's from Croatia. So we've got something that's dry, fairly full-bodied, great acidity, but also aromatics, peach, honeysuckle, white flowers.
Worryingly, I'm liking this at 10:40 in the morning.
It's that time of year.
Yeah, this is very sharp, like quite sharp though with it.
At
It's
the
quite
end,
nice.
the acidity, but to cut through, I mean, turkey is a low-fat meat, but it's also a carrier. It's a utilitarian fowl. It's got all the sauces, so your cranberry sauce, your bread sauce, and then moving off to the red.
Right, so we're going to go on to red.
So
This is the quickest shots I've ever done. Yes.
Zweigelt from Austria, from a little Red Squirrel Wines, they're an online wine importer, and it's super light, bouncy fruit. There's a little bit of pepper there as well. Touch more body, and also to go with, say, your pigs in blankets as well, because we've got fat coming through. We're going to have salt. You can't have anything with tannins that are too rich and heavy, because salt just dissipates them immediately.
Dessert is also a massive part of Christmas. I mean, I did like that, but I have to say, I think I preferred the white with the turkey, if I'm allowed to have an opinion on the BBC about such things. Sweet wine, is this what we've got here?
That's what you have here. It's a little Pedro Jimenez from your friendly local Lidl, which I love to go to and play Lidl roulette. So
Gosh, that's like pure syrup.
Oh,
it's
isn't
heaven.
It? Yeah, and it's just the perfect match for either vanilla ice cream or your Christmas pudding.
Oh.
And something as an alternative to port. So, and sherry's coming back, guys. It's becoming the next big thing.
And what about veggie roast? Would you say there's a particular wine that you need to think about?
Well, it depends which way you're going. If you're going like a really earthy, mushroomy route, I'd probably go for something from the Piemonte or Dolcetto, a particular grape from around there, or a fuller-bodied white, something like a Viognier.
Very quickly, Jane, would you say vegetables? What would you say to go with a veggie roast?
Well, from veggie roast, brown ale, go for brown ale by Barrel and Cellars, which is a small Suffolk brewery. Bittersweet, nuttiness, big caramel backbone, fruits, caramel, or go for a mild, which is a dark style of dark mild, roasted coffee, licorice smokiness. Don't forget beer with pudding, by the way. There's so many beers that go with pudding, particularly with Christmas-style puddings, and cheese as well. Beer and cheese, alchemy.
It's Jane Peyton, drinks historian and beer sommelier, and Dominique Kate Hopgood, wine sommelier, ending the programme there. The did finish the programme on the big battle of our time, or certainly of our festive time, which is beer versus wine around the Christmas table, if you are that way inclined. Dave messaged in to say, real beer has to be the drink of choice, but if you must, you can pretend some fizzy stuff is just posh lager. Well, still on the line with me is Jane Peyton. Hello, Jane.
Hello, Emma.
You're our beer sommelier, our drinks historian. Real beer versus fizzy stuff. I mean, what's this all about?
He's talking about real ale, which is what you get if you're in the pub and somebody's hand pumping your beer for you. That beer is still live. It's got the yeast still living in the beer, which gives flavour. It gives the soul of the beer. And then he's comparing it to these, what you might call cooking beers or industrially produced, usually Pilsner lagers, which are highly carbonated and don't have an awful lot of flavour or character. That's what he's saying.
Okay, well, wine was also having a bit of a shout out. Dominique, you did quite a good job. Quite a good job there, defending it. What's for you on Christmas Day, though? What were you going to have?
I am actually not allowed to partake in the purchasing of the wine at home. I've not reached that tier.
Who's in charge?
Yet. My mother and my uncle.
Oh, really? So you just have to sit there?
One day, but usually we end up getting a Magnum in there, and there is nothing I like more for a special occasion. You can't really do that with beer, but having a Magnum on the table.
We're talking about champagne here.
Oh, we're also talking about white and red.
Oh.
It's actually,
sorry.
Yeah,
I was thinking
all the way, especially Magnums though, because it's the double bottle. It's actually a brilliant way to age wine as well. You've got the right mathematical ratio of oxygen versus wines, and they tend to keep them longer at the vineyards, so they've aged a bit more as well, and you just get a really beautiful wine in terms of flavour and texture and mouthfeel and whatnot. And also it's the celebratory aspect.
Okay, well, I did not know that. I mean, Jane, I was also just going to bring you in on women and beer, because a lot of the marketing is aimed at still men, isn't it? Occasionally there are those very cringy adverts of kind of like a feminine beer.
Yes, you're right. The marketing for beer in the big companies, particularly in the last few decades, has been very much at men in a rather blokey way. It infantilises men in some cases. It uses women in sometimes misogynist, quite often sexist and derogatory ways. Their image, words, names of beers.
So we go right back, don't we, with beer? I mean, women and beer in terms of kind of the way it's been brewed and the deities. Can you say a bit about that?
Yes, the women were the first brewers of beer thousands of years ago. Beer is food. It's basically liquid bread, and it's full of nutrition. It's also a safe source of drinking water. And if you can't trust your water source, then beer is a really good option. Plus, you've got the nutrition as well. So women were the first brewers of beer because it was something that was made in the home. I'm talking thousands of years ago. And for thousands of years, women were the primary brewers of beer. all the deities of beer are female. Now, Dominique will attest to the fact that the deities of wine are males. So this is the irony about beer, that many people think, oh, it's a bloke's drink, or it's a blokey thing that women shouldn't be drinking it because they're feminine and light and they want something fluffy. But there's so much femininity and femaleness in beer that women in particular, and quite a lot of men, don't know about.
Well, it's good. You've educated the listeners, the dedicated listeners of the Woman's Hour podcast, with these extra bits that we're finding out. Dominique, you were craning to say something.
I was just going to say, Jane, I don't know if I'm mistaken, but legend doth tell in the wine trade that women are biologically predisposed to not like bitter things, and this is why we generally swerve away from beer.
That is a good point, that some women say, I don't like bitterness, but then you ask them, do you drink coffee? Do you eat rocket? Do you drink gin and tonic? Do you drink Campari?
Jane, you've got an answer for everything. You're like a lawyer for beer. It's like the full-on defence. Well, you actually convinced me to have a bit of beer on the table in some nice glasses, so that way I can maybe convince my mother to have a bit with her turkey.
Oh, do.
If the turkey's failed, I'll let you know.
It won't be a fail. It won't.
It might.
Can I just say something about bitterness? Sorry, I don't want to grab all the time, but bitterness is really important in health. What bitterness does, and this is why people have a bitter aperitif. So they'll have a Campari, a G&T, they'll have a Manhattan, or a martini with some vermouth in it. If you have beer in a champagne flute, if you have India Pale Ale, which is fairly bitter, what that bitterness does, it starts your salivary glands going. Salivary glands contain digestive enzymes, so you start to digest your food and drink in the mouth. That then sends signals to your stomach for the hydrochloric acid to start being ready for the food and drink to come down. That then sends a message to the gallbladder for the bile to start being released. The liver and the gallbladder are working in tandem. That means that in your lower intestines, all that food and drink is going to be digested properly. Healthy digestion means healthy people. That all starts from having a little sip of a bitter aperitif. So I'll be having India Pale Ale in a champagne flute as my aperitif before Christmas dinner.
And then move on to your wine with a turkey, yeah?
Oh no,
Dominique,
I'm a veggie, I'll be on the nut roast.
She's trying to seize some victory there. Well, I'll put beer in a champagne flute, I promise, for the first time this Christmas, to raise a toast to you, Jane, Peyton. Thank you. Dominique, Kate Hopgood, thank you very much for staying on for a bit extra on the Woman's Hour podcast. We like to give you a treat. And on tomorrow's programme,